Hi everybody, Jason Ryan from iAnimate here. How's everybody doing? So in this week's snippet, what we're going to talk about is planning through polish. So the planning stage for me is really important. I like to be able to have a way of working that allows me to work in a fluid and efficient way, right? So I like to be able to think about the actual shot, the composition, the performance in a very fluid way. So I like to use Digital Flipbook for this because it allows me to sketch out my shots. So here's one shot that we looked at earlier in our snippets where we were talking about lip sync and the way the emotional state of the character dictates the shapes that we're going to be using through our shot. So this is a shot, right? So it's I want vengeance, right?
I want vengeance!
Right? So in this, I'm trying to think of a way to bring the character forward so we really get an intense look at his face. But I also want to try to keep that energy up, right? So he's committing to this. He wants vengeance and he wants it now, right? So I'm pulling those corners back, making sure that we get some flexibility in the jaw, and then really making sure that we can see the character's eyes, right? So in this like 2D concept, I'm thinking about the composition too, right? And being able to move that character into the shot. So from here, what I like to do is shoot live action reference. Now, this is my planning stage, right? So the live action reference then gives me an extra sort of mode where I can actually experiment with like how broad I can make the body, or how much energy, or sort of little teeny tiny head shakes that I can sort of pull from to add to the energy, right? So in here, when I've got my golden poses, you can see it right here. This is the live action reference that I was doing. Look, I'm wearing the same shirt. So
I want vengeance!
So if I'm looking at the live action reference here, like I can see that I'm kind of moving myself forward, and then I'm using my shoulders here to try and hit that dialogue nice and hard, right? So I want vengeance, right? So like you can feel like the anticipation here, and then like the pull through here, like the vengeance, So in here, like I wasn't really thinking about in the 2D stage, but because I shot live action reference after I did the 2D, it sort of like informed my live action reference, right? And then you can see here, I'm using very few keys. Right, so in here, I'm just finding like the most extreme poses in here that sort of dictates the actual path of action for the character, right? So in here, we got like up to here, want, and then here, like the extreme up with the shoulders, and then the down, the vengeance, right? Now, that's it. That's all I need for storytelling poses. It's almost like you're taking the character in CG and doing a storyboard pass with the character, right? So as few poses as possible. I always tell all the animators that I work with to try and use as few poses as possible in their blocking stage. This way you get the expression right, you get the head angle right, you get the eyes, you get the brows, you get all that stuff worked out in your blocking, right? And then from here, then we can start to work out the keys around that, right? So here, when I'm actually going to my keys stage, I'm looking at like how I'm favoring a pose, like how I'm going to dictate the arc, and then start to work out some of the lip sync around these poses, and then seeing like where I'm going to favor, like the shoulders coming down, how far I'm going to come down, and then the overshoot down and then back up, right? So like in here, like if we play this, it's still in step mode, but it's very clear what's actually going on.
I want vengeance! I want vengeance! I want vengeance!
So at this stage, I still want to just make sure that I'm just seeing the keys that I'm putting in. Now in Maya, it's in auto spline, right? So I can see like the transitions, I can see that stuff. But I want to just, when I'm doing Play Blast, set everything to step mode. And I've got them like all in a line. Like I'm not offsetting anything, right? So everything's just still in a line. So using this process, at any stage, I can show this to the director and say, okay, this is what I'm planning to do, right? So I've shown him the 2D planning, and I've shown him the live action reference. Then we show him at the golden pose stage, the storytelling poses, and even at the key stage, I can show him. And then once we're happy with everything the way it's going on, then we can go in and hit spline on the whole thing and then start to control the in-betweens, right? So this final version here is with the breakdowns. Okay, so this is basically all the breakdowns.
I want vengeance. I want vengeance. I want vengeance.
So everything's on ones now. So like when I'm doing that, what I'm trying to do is still favor the poses. So it's not evenly timed, right? So if I'm coming up with the head, I want to favor into that pose. So I get a slow in and then a slow out and then hit that spacing nice and hard so that I can really feel the punch on the accents, right? That way, like, we're taking out some of the evenness that the computer will give us, right? The computer is actually a really great in-betweener, but because they're so dead on, it starts to make everything feel a bit too evenly timed and spaced, right? So I go into those computer in-betweens, just sort of nudge them, you know, so I can get the spacing to feel a little bit more punchy, right?
I want vengeance. I want vengeance.